are movies that I will say are awesomely bad. Like they're shit movies, but they're fun to watch.
Yes,
and this is one of them.
This movie it feels like we're back in the 90s, like just like a classic 90s. Obviously, this is an older movie they're remaking, so the story is old, but it still has that vibe. It gives the vibe of that, like, just fucking 90s nonsense that, like, I...
Welcome back to the Movie Dads podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Howie.
I'm Kyle.
That is Kyle. Kyle, we're back for episode number 43 of the Movie Dads podcast. The action remake, Roadhouse.
Classic.
Roadhouse. Prime exclusive.
Available to watch
Roadhouse.
right now for everyone in the world.
That's right. Exactly right. Hopefully you're watching us on YouTube. If you are watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Leave us a comment. Tell us what you like. Tell us what you don't like. Click that bell so you get alerted when new episodes come out, which, if anybody's noticed the last couple of weeks, we are on a new schedule. New episodes premiere every Wednesday at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time.
Yeah.
And hopefully we can keep things consistent that way.
We give you guys some work week commute listening episodes.
We're for the people. That's what we're here for. We're for the people. But if you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and Podcast Index, because Google Podcasts has been shut down. It's gone. We're not on there. Not on there anymore. It's transitioning to YouTube Music here this month.
Didn't they just transition over to another thing? Or
well, Google Podcasts is now just going to be YouTube Music, which we're not on YouTube Music yet, but we are on YouTube Video, right? So once all that gets sorted out, because we go through a podcast sharing service, right? So I upload one audio file, and then it distributes to all of them that we sign up for. So
I think you just pulled the curtain back. I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about that in an actual podcast to know how it gets sent out. So there you go, people. How the sausage is made.
That's
it's so simple.
Yeah, that's how the sausage is encased. Anyway, you can also find some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and welcome back. We love you, TikTok.
Yep, look at that. They heard you talking bad, and they said, "All right, we'll give you a bone or 1,800 on this video and that video."
Did a little curse on them, and it seemed to have worked. So we were back in the good graces of the people, the Chinese people.
All of a sudden, people are listening. Viewing.
They are viewing and they are liking, so we will take that. But we're movie dads, we have movie kids. We both had similar things, though different this weekend. I had a birthday party for a 13-year-old on Friday night, which consisted of a sleepover with 7 other 13-year-olds, all female.
Woof. How did that go?
Well, it started off with listen, I planned this. We decorated, free reign in the basement. You've been in my basement. If you're 13 and you're in my basement, you're going to have a good time. Okay. Like we got.
Giggity. Oh my God. You are going to jail. Oh, that's the best clip I've ever heard. Continue.
What I meant was there are arcade machines. Obviously, there's multiple video game things. There's an assortment of Blu-rays and projector screen. And
that's why.
I meant
started
if
when you
you're,
said you've been in my basement. It's
if
like,
you're
have I though?
and then yeah. Anyway, Epstein's basement.
Oh my god! All right, well
We,
now this episode's canceled.
oh,
Jesus.
okay. Anyway, so there's a lot of fun things to do if for anyway, it's fun. There's
Everyone,
fun things
it's
to
a
do in the
nerd
basement.
cave.
It's a
It's a
nerd cave.
nerd
Anyway,
cave.
yeah, plenty of places to sit. There's a fridge. I had the fridge stocked up with soda pops and juice, and we had I had candy. I had snacks. We ordered pizza. We got brought the kids pizza. We did ice cream cake. I don't know, man. There was lots of screaming. There was people that were overstimulated. There were kids that had headaches and needed medicine. There were other kids that were bored and hanging out with just, didn't want to do what the other kids are doing. And of course, my poor daughter, whose birthday it is like trying to please everybody, and she's, trying to make sure everybody's involved and stuff like that. She got upset a couple times. Anyway, it was like, listen, it's your party. You do what you want. You have a good time. You can't worry about pleasing everybody else. Like, if you want to watch a movie, turn on a movie. If you want to play board games, play board games. If you want to go play arcade games, go play arcade games. I don't care. Do whatever you want. It's your birthday, right? Just don't start drinking the beer, and we'll be good. But
now we're not quite at that age for them, but
yeah, they shouldn't be
a couple
sneaking.
Years from now, your house will be the house where they go to play arcade games and drink.
Yeah, maybe I'd rather they do that here than somewhere else, but
That's how my parents were too.
Same.
I'd much rather you be getting wild at my house where I don't have to worry about you getting in a car accident or something. So,
bingo.
Love that. Well, that's very interesting. That I can't. That's a lingerer. So, but yes, similar in that we had a birthday party over here for our youngest, who just turned 1. Which when I grew up, I maybe had one birthday party. I don't even remember a birthday party, but in Steph's side of the family, every birthday gets a birthday party. So, but it was cool to see. Cal is now 1 year old. It's wild how quickly time flies, but they did a superhero theme. So everybody got kind of like the 1960s Batman, pow, kazinga, and all the the little word bubbles. There was water bottles that were made out of those, superhero stuff all over the house. I had made some world famous chili that someone that we both know asked for the recipe and said it was maybe the best chili they've ever had.
My wife.
My wife. But it's like you said, there was a lot of kids. There was a lot of screaming. There were some friends that were here that don't have kids. And I very much could tell that they probably will never have kids now, just from how wild it was. But it was a ton of fun. And in my head, I always get kind of stressed out about parties and stuff. So I'm like, okay, now I got to keep everybody busy and happy. And then we get to those times and I'm reminded oh, there's other kids here to play with the kids. So I don't have to entertain them. So bring them over because I can let them go play and I can actually chill and not do anything. So, so yeah, that Easter was upon us this weekend. Again, my family, we did not celebrate every holiday like it was a big major thing. I mean, we celebrated them, but Easter almost feels like Christmas, just like St. Patty's Day. The kids get up in the morning to come sneak down and see the eggs.
Mm-hmm.
When I grew up, we did one egg hunt in the middle of the day. After we had woken up, had breakfast, my parents would go hide eggs outside, which we painted eggs back in the day. I don't know if people do that anymore, but we did.
You dye them still, right?
You dye them.
Yeah, dye
the little weird wire spoon thing,
octagon shaped spoon.
Yes. Yeah. And you try to make different weird colors and stripes and stuff. But we would do a shit ton of actual dyed eggs, and then those would be what that my parents would go and hide. But Steph's side, they do like a million of the little plastic crack open eggs with like candy and toys, and we hide them all over the house when they're in bed. So when they wake up, they have to go find eggs and stuff.
Nice.
So it's fun. They got a little Easter basket and stuff. But
my mom started doing when we go to her house on Easter, which we did this year. She started doing this. So she's got 4 grandkids, so she gets $100 in ones, and she puts $1 in each egg, and she hides the eggs. So the kids are making $25 each because each kid has their own eggs.
A color, yep.
Yeah. So
that's not how we did it here, but that is how the in-laws do their eggs. Like all the blues are Parkers, all the yellows are Graysons.
Nice. Well, that way the kids get the same amount, right?
Yeah.
I totally get that because I've taken like my young kids to Easter egg hunts, like those big hunts they have at like parks and stuff. Yes. And like they get like 5, and there's some fucking 12-year-old that's got like 100 eggs because he's a little asshole. Like, so I get you get your own colored egg stuff. I totally on board.
When you're divvying up the cash. So,
yeah, exactly.
Grayson, I did ask like the boys of like, all right, what do you got? What should I talk about on like the like what we did this week? What was cool and fun? And Grayson was like, I know what you could do. Tell Howie that I got Halo Legos for Easter.
Hell yeah.
And then he said, he'll think that's real cool. So I was like, all right, I'll tell Howie.
Yeah, he likes the Legos. I know that. Especially the Halo Legos. Heck yeah.
Yes. But that takes us to my most excited segment of the episode, the 6 to Midnight.
I don't want to talk about 6 to Midnight now. I'm done.
Yeah, you probably should stray away from that one a little bit. This segment is where we talk about the things that get us up in the morning this week in terms of nerd stuff, new trailers, new news, cool nerd stuff that we're nerding about, whether it's new or old. So for me, I was going to just point out, because we're pretty close to the release of the Fallout TV show that's dropping on Amazon Prime on April 12th, which is right around the corner. And fun fact, Howie, you're getting all 8 episodes the day that it drops. So you can binge it in one weekend.
Excellent, because I'm having a hard time right now with X-Men. I'm struggling.
Dude, same. X-Men, and I think Shogun has all the episodes out. I don't know if you've watched or started.
I have not gotten into it yet because, like, be honest, like, I was so into X-Men 97, and we've talked about it a ton on here, but, like, so I just started watching the old series from the beginning.
Yeah, same. We've been doing that too. That's what the kids we've been watching before bed. Well, so anyways, the Fallout show that's coming out, it looks like this show is it's a TV adaptation of a video game series. It was originally a PC game way back in the day. And then it came out on Xbox as like a first-person shooter RPG. And essentially Fallout is set in a post-apocalyptic future where, like, in the 1950s, when the atomic bomb became
Cold War,
a thing,
like height of the Cold War.
Right? Yes, Cold War. Like bomb shelters, like everyone, like you got to have a bomb shelter, blah blah blah, for the fallout of a nuclear bomb. This is a timeline where that actually happened. Like nuclear bombs fell all around the world, and people went and lived in like these vaults all over the world, and every vault was like different. Some have really wacky, zany themes. Some are like totally normal. And then the video game, you always play one of the vault dwellers or someone who is coming out from a vault into the wasteland, as they refer to it, to which you then find out the world has changed a lot because of nuclear fallout. But there are like mutated giant like radiated bugs and monsters and people. Any humans that survived and actually were hit by the radiation, they turn into these like shriveled up zombie looking things called ghouls. But anyways, it's cool because it's got that like 1950s vibe, but in like a post-apocalyptic world. So like ragtag outfits and like armors and stuff like that. Just like super zany characters. A lot of different random factions in the world, but the show looks like a direct like adaptation of the game. Like it looks like the game was just turned into a show. Nothing's changed. Like they didn't do like their style of what a power suit would look like. It's like the exact power suit from the video game. Like it looks like it sounds like it moves like it. And getting to see like this power suit, these big giant mech suits that people can wear, like jumping around and flying. Like the trailer, it makes it look fucking awesome. Looks exactly like the game. Like this post-apocalyptic cowboy western, like survival vibes, and I'm excited for it. Looks great. It's coming out soon, and I have probably talked too much about Fallout. What you got for me?
No, that's good. Just a couple quick things. One, we had a new premiere last week that we're not reviewing, but Godzilla Kong New Empire came out in theaters.
Oh
yeah. Had the biggest opening weekend, I think, so far for the year, just passing Dune 2. Global box office weekend was
really?
$194 million over the weekend, global. So yeah,
What?
big business. Godzilla's big business, man. Godzilla's big.
Is it all
dollars.
Were the other two, or did Godzilla -1 really like all of a sudden get extra people on board?
That's why they keep making these MonsterVerse movies, because they're huge international dollars. Like because it's so because Godzilla and King Kong are both
obviously
such big properties. But I did go see it. It is complete and total utter nonsense. It's utter nonsense. It is.
I thought you were going to say dog shit.
No, it's utter nonsense, but it is fun as hell. Those monsters, it's like we were talking about the original Godzilla, the like Bryan Cranston and Aaron Taylor Johnson one,
which
kind of slow, really good movie, but not enough Godzilla. I think that was everybody's big beef. So they have completely gone like lots of big monsters, and who cares about a story? Like, just let them kill each other. That's cool.
Yes.
And that's exactly what this is. Like, it is
nice,
nuts. But it's a lot more a Kong movie than Godzilla movie. Godzilla's just kind of there, which I thought was a little.
Well, I think the last one, what was it? Godzilla King of the Monsters, or was it Godzilla versus Kong? Which one?
That was the last one. Godzilla versus Kong was the last one.
One of them, like you said, the Bryan Cranston one was super slow, kind of boring, and then he ends up having one monster that he fights at the end, which is kind of classic old school Godzilla if you've never actually watched those movies. But then I think they took the feedback of like, this was boring, we want more giant monster battle, and it's gotten bigger and better each movie in terms of like big epic clash of kaiju. And I think maybe it was King of Monsters, maybe it was versus Kong, but there's like 7 of his main bad guys are in one of them. And
King of the Monsters, there's a ton of them, right? Like,
and I was about it. I was like, okay,
I was about it too.
We got all these crazy 3-headed dragons, and
some of them were okay. We're getting way too much in the MonsterVerse right now, but.
It's a thing that people don't even realize.
I know. King of the Monsters was okay, right? Like it was like the fight scenes were cool. It was okay. I didn't hate it. I liked Kong Skull Island. I thought that was entertaining.
Yes.
Then there was Kong versus Godzilla, right? And I thought that was okay. I didn't love it. I liked this one a lot more because it was like it's like they turned the dial for just monsters smashing each other up to 11. Like that's so I didn't go to it for the story. I didn't care that there were real people in it.
Yeah.
And
I don't think anybody does.
no, it was cool. There was a lot of cool monster fighting. I could care less about the rest. Anyway,
Oh
that
my
was
God.
I thought
Love
my
it.
thoughts on that. Like I would totally go see that like in the theater if I was somebody
Okay.
that's into
Okay.
them, but kids will love it.
Yeah. My
I thought
kids
this
like
was kind of a interesting. So Christopher McDonald, who's a character actor, who was really big, 90s, early 2000s and whatnot. Everybody probably recognized him the most as being one Shooter McGavin from Happy Gilmore. Was doing an interview and he said he's seen a script that Adam Sandler personally gave to him for Happy Gilmore 2, which apparently he thinks is going to be a Netflix exclusive.
Oh,
Adam
nice.
Sandler is totally in on doing a sequel to Happy Gilmore. And so he says that Christopher McDonald, old Shooter McGavin himself, says he's seen the script and it's in so there's a full draft of it. And Netflix is possibly in because Netflix has made some Adam Sandler movies lately. They kind of
Oh yeah.
signed an exclusive rights deal. That would probably generate some extra revenue for Netflix getting a old Happy Gilmore 2 out. And
Dude,
I'd watch it.
obviously it makes sense that Shooter McGavin would be the one to drop that news without like probably having to go ahead. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, out of all the movies that Adam Sandler's made, that's probably like the one that could easily have been like a franchise of multiple movies,
Yes.
right? Like he's a professional golfer.
Mm-hmm.
You could do multiple of versions of that. You can't really do Billy Madison again because you're gonna make him go to school again.
You're gonna make Waterboy 2 Bobby Boucher goes to the NFL.
Oh shit! Actually, that's a great.
I could do that.
Okay, I'm wrong. You could do Bobby Boucher. Bobby Boucher gets drafted. Like you could totally do. Okay, I take that back. Maybe we just pitched an idea that the world needs. Also,
Adam Sandler's a little long in the tooth now to do the Waterboy Part 2, but you can still be a professional golfer in your 50s.
That's true. That is true. Yeah, so, that's actually a great point. So,
and I'm going to be honest. Like Happy Gilmore is my favorite Adam Sandler movie.
Yes, mine as well. But anyways, love that. I'm down for that. It's Netflix. It's easy money for me to want to watch.
Absolutely. And then the last thing I was just going to talk about was we talked about Alien Romulus last week, I believe, because the trailer had come out. But FX is doing an Alien series. So it sounds there's not a ton of details on it. They started filming already. So it's in the works. Filming's expected to be done sometime this summer with a like early 2025 release on FX. Not a ton of details. It sounds like it's going to be maybe like a prequel series, I don't know how that's going to work, but we'll see. But apparently a lot of it's going to take place on Earth. Also don't know how that's going to work since the aliens were like a new species in the movies. But Noah Hawley is going to be the showrunner, which he helped create Fargo for FX, and then Legion, which was like a Marvel X-Men spinoff. I don't know if you ever watched that series, but both were pretty well acclaimed. So he's doing this Alien series. There is a mostly young cast, a lot of people that are not super familiar names. But Timothy Olyphant did just sign on to join the cast, and I'm a big fan of his. If you ever watched Justified, and then of course he's been in a ton of movies too. You'd recognize him if you saw him if you didn't know who he was. But yeah, so
I've not seen Legion, but my buddy Matt was like obsessed with it.
It's really well done.
Awesome.
It was cool. It was a cool show. So that's that. And then a little bit of exciting news. I think you were going to talk about something we might have coming up.
Oh yeah. So ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, Omaha has a Comic-Con that they call OCon that we have mentioned and talked about a little bit. They are doing like a PodCon kind of thing, like a little podcast section of the weekend. But essentially, if I remember correctly, there's 8 spots that you apply for, and then essentially they feature your podcast in this part of the Comic-Con, but also one Ming Chen from Comic Book Men is going to do an episode with each of the podcasts that get selected for it. So like potentially Howie threw our hat in the ring, sent in an application, but we have an opportunity to get selected for that, and then we would do an episode of the pod with Ming Chen, and
live at the expo,
which is super cool. I don't know. Did you watched Comic Book Man, right?
Every single episode,
dude. It was so good. Comic Book Man is Kevin Smith, Jay and Silent Bob. Silent Bob is actually like a major director, writer, comic book writer, massive in the nerd world, comedian as well. But he owns his own comic book shop in New Jersey that
Jay and Silent Bob's Secret Stash.
The Secret Stash. And they created a show, I think it was on A&E originally.
I think it was on AMC. Yes, it was on AMC.
Yes, AMC. And it's basically, it was just like really short episodes of following his buddies that worked at the comic book shop. And then he would come in and do kind of like an overview, kind of a podcast with the whole group of just what had happened that week in the comic book shop, like who brought in what comic to try to sell or flip, or really expensive, figure collectible, and just super. It was addicting. It's a great freaking show.
If you're into that stuff, 100%. Like I had, that was DVR days when that first came out. Like that was on the DVR every week. I watched it every week.
Yes.
Some of the toys and stuff that would come in, super cool. I'm with you on that.
Yeah, there was an episode where somebody brought in, or they bought like this massive G.I. Joe aircraft carrier that's like, it was like the size of,
it's like a table.
Table. Yes, massive thing. Jay, is it Jason Mewes? Is that what is it? So Jay from Jay and Silent Bob, he would come in and do episodes and stuff with them. And there's a ton of celebrity like cameos that would come in for the show. It was a ton of fun. Ming is one of the, workers and characters or actors from the show. And I would like nerd out if we got to do a little bit of a podcast with him.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be totally cool. So hopefully next week we have good news on that front when that information
hopefully
comes
go
out.
Comment on Ocon's socials and say like, put the Movie Dads pod on this damn thing, because that's our ticket out of here, boys and girls. We put freaking Ming on this thing. Whew. Goodbye, day job.
We'll have cool basements.
Yeah. Then maybe they'll want to bring us to cameo in their show because they just enjoyed it so much.
That's totally going to happen. But but that's the news for this week. And that takes us into our big premiere movie of the week, the 2024 action remake Roadhouse. All right. So Roadhouse is a production by MGM, which is owned by Amazon Studios. So Amazon decided to release the movie exclusively on Prime, not in theaters, which was a bold and surprising move to a lot of the filmmakers, including the director, Doug Liman. And then obviously the stars of the movie also were surprised by that too. But we'll get to it because it sounds like it's worked out so far.
Wait, they were going to do the movie, and no matter what, before they knew it was going to be a Netflix movie or a Amazon Prime movie?
Yeah, the movie was done and in the can before it was announced it was going to be just on Prime.
Wow.
It was already done. Like, it was already made. And then distribution came out, and Prime's like, we're going to do the distribution. We're going to put it on Prime Video.
I did not know that that was the last minute or later on thing.
Yeah, that was a later on decision. But directed by Doug Liman, who's got some action pedigree.
Give me some of his action pedigree.
He did Born Identity.
Oh,
Yeah.
Nice. I asked those things for
Yeah.
not just myself, but for the general.
Yeah, I believe Doug Liman did that. I think he did like Eagle Eye. Boy, he did a couple other.
Shia and Eagle Eye.
Yeah. That's a good movie.
Good movie.
But he did that, and then it's written by David Lee Henry, who actually wrote the screenplay for the original Roadhouse. So he got a story by credit for this one, and then the screenplay is by Anthony Bagarazzi and Charles Mondry, and then of course the cast is starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Daniela Melchior, Billy Magnuson, Jessica Williams, and the one and only notorious Conor McGregor.
The notorious
Conor McGregor. But yeah, so in the first, I think it's 10 days on Prime Video, this movie already has 50 million views.
Oh shit.
Yeah. I think Conor posted something on his social media that said that'd be like $700 million if it was in movie theaters. So anyway, just quick.
Was that real?
No, that's not real. It's Conor being Conor.
McGregor.
Anyway, so just touching on Doug Liman, I got it pulled up. Born Identity, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Jumper, Edge of Tomorrow, to name a few. So that's
those are fucking awesome movies.
So I was wrong about Eagle Eye. I had somebody else. Anyway,
okay.
Glad I looked it up.
Jumper's a great movie. You obviously love
Edge of Tomorrow.
Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, that's badass.
Nice.
But yeah, so he did. He's got quite the action pedigree there. But so we'll do like we normally do because it did just come out, so I consider it a new release. We'll kind of give our spoiler-free thoughts on the movie, and then give you the spoiler warning after our recommendation, and then you can get out and we'll talk about all the interesting news nuggets and tidbits of the movie. But initial thoughts, like I enjoyed it. I thought it was good, just mindless, dumb fun, kind of like Kong and Godzilla, just very small scale.
Hear me out. New Roadhouse. It's horrible, and I love it. It's so bad, it's good, and not like it. It's hard to say because it's not like a
no. You're right.
Movie.
That's the perfect line to say. It's so bad, it's good. He's not wrong when he says that. There are movies that I will say are awesomely bad. Like they're shit movies, but they're fun to watch. Yes, and this is one of them.
This movie it feels like we're back in the 90s, like just like a classic 90s. Obviously, this is an older movie they're remaking, so the story is old. But it still has that vibe. It gives the vibe of that, like, just a fucking 90s nonsense that, like, I fucking love. It's a ton of fun. Jake Gyllenhaal, give the man his flowers. He's, like, chiseled from granite. Jesus. Like, we're talking Thor trailer 1. Like, the man looked like freaking a true UFC fighter or something from back when they were allowed to do drugs and steroids. Like, he's fucking massive. So, I like you. I thought it was a ton of fun. Conor McGregor is so terrible at acting, but for the character he was playing, it worked, and I liked it. I kind of wish he would have been more of a like, because there are multiple Conor McGregors in the world. There was the early version where he was this like freaking just wordsmith who just seemed extremely intelligent, seemed extremely driven, was just wrecking everybody in the UFC, and then he became like the most famous person in the world and has done like 100,000 pounds of cocaine and he's like a totally different human being. So it felt like in this movie he was really leaning into like, okay, I'm in a movie, I'm supposed to be this crazy like weirdo villain, so I'm gonna walk all weird the whole time. But he totally could have been like the calm and collected, like serious Connor, and would have been a really cool villain in my opinion. But
yeah, I don't know if that was a direction they were like, ham it up, Connor, or if it was,
because like, he hammed it the fuck up.
Oh my God, it's insane. He's a lunatic in the movie. Like even from the get-go, he's a freaking, he like sneaks out of he's obviously with some married woman. He sneaks out of her apartment naked. He's just walking through a town square naked till he finds somebody whose clothes look like they'll fit, and he steals his suit. And it's just,
it's utter nonsense, but like perfect for him to play. Like,
right. So,
go
ahead.
I was just saying, like, he wasn't like the main driving villain. He was just like,
he's the hired muscle.
Yeah, he is a hired muscle of like a separate, like, he wasn't really in the middle of the actual plot between the good guy and the bad guy, but he was crazy and like the perfect kind of curveball for whatever utter nonsense was going on. It felt kind of like, was it Fool's Gold or what movie with Matthew McConaughey where they're in like the Caribbean and they're trying to find buried treasure under like a shipwreck or something? I'm pretty sure it's Fool's Gold, but it reminded me of that movie. Like, it felt like we were on vacation in the Keys during the whole movie.
Oh, it did. Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion.
Yeah. I would say, you know, I like, this isn't something, and if you already have Prime, like, you don't have to pay to go see this, right? Like, you're not sign up for a new subscription or anything. If you already have Prime and you like mindless action movies that like are something from the night, like the original Roadhouse, it fits the vibe.
Yes.
Totally watch this movie. It's entertaining. I recommended it to like friends and stuff. And, you know, like, yeah, you should definitely waste an hour and a half of your life or 2 hours and watch this movie because it's mindless.
Yes.
But if you don't have Prime, do not get a subscription just for this. Like, you should already have Prime, just because, like, I think everybody should have Prime if you're buying anything on Amazon, because it pays for itself. But yeah, I'd say, yeah, definitely watch it. It's mindless fun.
Yes, I would say this is the perfect movie to put on in the background when you're working, or, you know, on a random weeknight where you just need something fun to watch. If you're looking for that classic 90s action vibe, like, and Gyllenhaal is obviously a great actor, enough to carry like the movie to feel like it actually could be a good movie, but it's not, as we know. But
right,
you know what I mean?
I will say this, like, I watched this the first time for the pod, and then I watched it again because I had to do computer work and I just wanted to turn something on in the background. So just like you said, I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn Roadhouse on again just so I can look up and watch people stupid.
Yes.
But yeah. But anyway, that's what we recommend it. Like, that's where we're at.
Yes. I feel like there's not a lot of movies that come out today, and maybe this is totally inaccurate, but there's not a lot of movies where, like, old school action movies where there's like fighting the whole time. Like, they're fighting at the bar, they're fighting in the parking lot, he's fighting the bad guy. Like, you know, am I off by saying that?
No, I feel like most of the modern day action movies are either like big spectacle explosions and shit, right? Like Fast and Furious, like that kind of movie, or it's a like assassin level fight, like John Wick, right? Like, it's one of those two things. Like, that's modern action, it feels like, and I don't have a problem with that. But yes, it is cool every once in a while to get the like old Jean-Claude Van Damme, Steven Seagal, like mindless movie, you know, that you're not watching for the plot, you're just watching people kick the shit out of each other. Like,
yes.
Anyway, we'll jump into it. Spoiler warning: if you don't want to hear anything, get out. Though it's not super detailed, so you probably figured the plot out, and you already know it if you've seen the original Roadhouse. So, basic story of the movie. Elwood Dalton is a disgraced UFC fighter who basically is going around to bars now and fighting for money, and half the time he doesn't have to fight because people see who it is and they're just like, I'm not fighting that guy, I guess he just wins, right? And like, you get that at the beginning. Cool little cameo at the beginning.
Did not see that coming.
Now Post Malone is the guy he's going to have to fight, and you get to see Post Malone basically beat the crap out of some dude, which is kind of entertaining.
Knuckle fighter, like underground fighter. I thought that was cool. I did kind of have a little pop of like, oh, okay, Posty's in this, and then realized he did like the main song or theme music for the movie. So
nice. But yeah, anyway, so he's in it. Elwood basically like doesn't have to fight him because he doesn't want to fight him because he knows who he is. So he gets all the money. And you see another character who ends up being the owner of the Roadhouse, who was there to find the best fighter to hire as a bouncer, because she has this Roadhouse in the Florida Keys that keeps getting, trashed by these thugs, and she wants somebody to come in and clean up the riffraff, if you will. So she offers the job to Elwood, and of course he has a temporary existential crisis before he decides to take the job, and he ends up moving to the Florida Keys and taking the Roadhouse job. So, I mean, it's copy paste. It's cookie cutter plot line. Like, yeah, the fight scene in the beginning with Post Malone's kind of cool, right?
Yes.
Jake Gyllenhaal, I think, is entertaining as hell in this movie. I think he acted very well, which is surprising. From the get-go, I thought he was at the beginning. You can tell he's somebody that has a lot of demons in the movie. He's trying to get through them. He's using violence as his way out, that kind of thing. Or what'd you think about all that?
He's like the classic, like, anti-hero. Like, he's like, he's not a good guy. The main character. He's not a good guy, but for whatever reason, this opportunity gives him the right scenario for him to become the good guy.
Yeah.
Like, he is a world-class, like, fighter / killer, essentially. And I did think that was super cool that he's like this super high-level fighter. And so when he finally gets to the bar and he's like checking the place out to see kind of what the vibe is, and then a fight breaks out, and then he inserts himself to stop the fight. The way he's like, it felt very like, not necessarily John Wick, but felt very like where it's the classic scene where there's multiple bad guys and one of him, and he says like, well, this isn't fair. And they're like, oh, not fair. Like, not fair for you. And he's like, no, not fair for you. And then, is there a hospital nearby? And then they start kind of jabbing, going back and forth of because you're going to go there. Do you have a good dental plan? Like,
the movie was funnier than I thought it was going to be. Like that, that stuff was pretty funny, where he's like, and the one guy's like, oh, it's about 20 minutes. And
the banter I thought was good. It was like super cheesy and horrible, but that's why it was so good. Because he's about to have this parking lot fight with 5 or 6 like bigger, badder guys, and
he slaps the shit out of him, and that's hilarious.
He like extreme world-class fighter just beats the shit out of them, but starts off by slapping all of them to like show them, I am going to kill all of you if you try this. And
even the first guy, the first guy, he slaps him and he goes, oh, I just slapped you. Are you okay? And it's like, that's pretty funny. Go ahead.
Well, then he like breaks one of the guy's arms. He beats the shit out of all of them. And then he's like, all right, like, where's this guy's like, oh, you broke my arm. And he goes like, well, the hospital is only 20 to 25 minutes away, because that was the guy that just said it. And he ends up driving them to the hospital, like gets the car from
They're like bar 5 owner. Dudes stacked in the car.
He just beat the shit out of all these guys, and then he's just driving to the hospital. I thought that was funny. It was very low effort comedy that I enjoyed. So
I agree.
But yeah, I liked his character a lot. I think probably a perfect time to give kind of our new, Howie and I talked about adding something to our episodes now. And we basically are going to give like a cool detail or something you didn't know about a movie.
An Easter egg.
Yes.
And we decided to start this right at Easter.
Yes, I did not think of that. That is perfect.
It's intentional, Kyle. Say it's intentional.
Planned.
Totally.
But we liked it so much that we were like, we need to do this in every episode of like fun fact of the day for this movie. But something cool about this movie is they do have multiple flashbacks to when Jake Gyllenhaal was a UFC fighter. Like, they do his walkout to a fight. They do like the Bruce Buffer like announcer of him as a fighter. all of that they did at an actual UFC pay-per-view. Like
UFC 285.
Yes, which was in
Vegas.
They which Conor McGregor and Jake Gyllenhaal have been showing up to a ton of UFC pay-per-views recently, obviously to promote this. But it was cool. And midway through a pay-per-view card, they did like a fake, like just a normal like music walkout fake for the movie. So like crowd gets pumped for him, does the whole Bruce Buffer. They did like the the Vaseline cut man stuff, all just like a regular UFC fight, and then filmed a couple of the actual little fight scenes really quickly, why they could. And like they did did the same thing at one of the weigh-ins earlier in the week. So they got to, insert Jake Gyllenhaal doing like a UFC walkout and weigh-in, which I thought was really cool that they did all of that at the actual like UFC event. So fun fact of the movie.
There's your Easter egg of the week. Ba-da-bum.
Yes. My other Easter egg was going to be that, did you know Conor McGregor did 500 pounds of angel dust to film this movie to get the character that we got? And now it's showing in every single interview he does where he's twitching and can't say a full sentence. And people are like, I think that this man is not okay now. So movie broke him. It broke him.
I think he was already broken, but we'll see.
Yeah, it's true. That's very true.
Yeah, more. So anyway, you come to find out that there's basically a land grab. They want the Roadhouse closed down so they can buy up the property. It's this evil businessman he, of course, got some shady dealings with some drugs and some trafficking, and the cops are all crooked. And, it's very like, yeah, we're in Florida. We're in the Keys. Like, everybody's crooked. Yeah, I mean, this is completely like late 80s, early 90s.
Yes.
It is I think they didn't modernize Roadhouse. They did not. I will tell you that right now. This is not modernized. This is exactly like the old 80s Roadhouse with Patrick Swayze. Like, it's the same cheesy kind of storyline. It's the same bullshit. And it's awesome because you don't see it anymore. And so you got like a fresh take on it. Like, I know they already made like a Roadhouse 2 way back when that was terrible, but this was more than anything. It felt like Roadhouse 3. Like, it was like because it's the same kind of thing. It's not like they tried to. We're going to talk about more remakes in a little bit, but like, okay, think about RoboCop, right? Like, think about the RoboCop remake and how they made it all modernized, and they completely lost everything about the original movie was about blah, 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 blah. This is not that. It's copy and paste, man. They just inserted new people into it and they added a few different sprinkles to it. I mean, I think that's why you had to give David Lee Henry like a story credit, because it's the same story. It's not different.
Good point.
Another fun fact, the Roadhouse logo, like on the movie posters and stuff, it's the exact same logo as the original. It's the same like script in the neon lights. Like, there's no change. They didn't change anything. It's just the kind of movie it is.
How many movies that you could do that? Or like, we don't have to really pay anyone to come up with anything. We'll just take the exact thing and put new actors in it.
Paste.
So
that's what it is.
That one of the worst actors in the whole movie just was, for whatever reason, was like, why did they hire this man? Was the police chief or whoever the head policeman that was working, whose daughter was the nurse that he was dating. I don't know who that actor was, but he was so horrible. He was even worse than Conor McGregor. My God.
I'm gonna look it up because I'm gonna mess up the guy's name. He was in a ton of crap, like in the 90s and stuff. He was the main bad guy in like Harrison Ford's Clear and Present Danger. Like, he's like the main bad guy in that movie.
I did get a vibe that maybe they have this guy, like there has to be some significance of why this actor
Joaquin de Almeida.
Maybe he was great back in the day, but like his fucking lines just sounded so horrible.
He's the bad guy in Desperado. with Antonio
Oh,
Banderas. Like, yeah, he was in a shit ton of stuff back then.
maybe
And then
that
he
was
didn't
why they
he didn't
got
do
him.
a lot of stuff for a while, but then he started making a bunch of movies recently. Like he was a bad guy in Fast Five. He was the bad guy in Fast Five. And I think, and I don't. Okay, listen, I haven't seen Fast X yet, so sorry. But I think he's like Jason. I think he's Jason Momoa's like dad's character. I think he's his dad. Same dude.
Okay.
Anyway,
He very much, I know he was like the police chief, but he very much could have been like a cartel, like drug lord. More vibes I got from him
I
as
think
a,
that's who he is in Clear and Present Danger. I'm pretty sure that's what he
yeah.
does.
So it just felt very out of place. And like he was a weird person to choose to be this, supposed to be in the Keys police chief.
Yes, yeah, he does. And I think in all those other movies I'm talking about, he plays like a South American. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
fits. Yeah, you're
Yes.
right. It is a little off, but it's
Brad,
Florida. It's a melting pot.
this is very true. Or maybe he was one of those things, and that's how they were connected in the bad guy stories. They brought
You've got the plot for a
inserted
Roadhouse
on.
2 ready to go right there. Here you go. You're in
Gosh,
on it.
but we haven't really talked about Conor McGregor much. Like
Well,
he,
we're building up
yeah,
to
we're
get to Connor.
his character is so horrible, but I like loved how over the top they went. At one point, he, I think, has stolen. I don't think he drove the same vehicle more than one time in this
No,
thing. He
he just keep
steals
wrecking it
everything.
into shit, and he wrecks
Yeah,
it.
he at one point is driving this like miniature like driver's ed car with a driver's ed sign on the top. He's got
Mm-hmm.
like six coconut, like empty coconut drink, like Mai Tai
Mm-hmm.
drinks on the seat. So he's clearly drunk. But he's, when he pulls up to the to the house, he just slowly drives and fucking crashes right into the tree. Like that's how he parks the car, like to get
Mm-hmm.
out. And that was his character, like in a nutshell. He's just this fucking wacko, but hilarious and
Oh yeah,
awkward.
they have an awesome the first time they meet in the Roadhouse, awesome fight scene that kind of ends in a draw. They both just beat the absolute piss out of each other. And then of course, like everything that happens, the whole climax of the movie is like the next day. Neither one of them would be able to walk like after that fight because they're just it's
Or being
but of
in
course
10 car accidents like he was. So,
correct. But then they have this awesome fight scene on like a moving boat. Like
oh my
that's
God.
pretty
Jake Gyllenhaal grabs onto it.
by her open
Fucking
shit.
this dingy boat is flying like 100 miles an hour, and somehow Jake Gyllenhaal swims out of the way, grabs onto the side, climbs onto the boat, and then they have a battle.
Yeah. It's
There was
nonsense.
it's nonsense. There was some cool like action moments or set piece moments. Like speaking of when Connor's driving his little dinghy, giggity, Jake Gyllenhaal's like fighting the guy in the water, and as Connor's like driving the boat full speed, and he gets out of the way, and the boat fucking just destroys this fucking dude at like 100 miles an hour, and I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, the fights, I enjoyed the fights between the
Mhm.
two. Like
They've gotten some crap because a lot of the fights where they used like CGI to like accentuate like how they hit and stuff. So some of the fights there's CGI involved, which I didn't mind. I thought it was entertaining the way that they use the camera angles and stuff a little differently than you see in traditional, fighting movies. So I didn't have a problem with that whatsoever. I know I think if I remember right, I heard something like Connor accidentally like laid one on Jake and it was rung his
just let
bell
them
for a
know
little
what's
bit, but
up.
yeah, let him know
Wouldn't be
who's the real talent in the movie. But
there's there's a moment where when they get to the end fight in the Roadhouse, which they have crashed a boat up onto land and through the restaurant,
and then
and now they're in the
Jake,
restaurant.
no. So that there's the main bad guy, right? Like the one
Ooh.
who's like kind
Oh
of the one
yeah,
who the rich guy. So there's the rich guy, and the rich guy's dad. The dad's in prison, and the dad's the one that hires Conor McGregor because the bad guy, what's his name? I don't even remember.
basically this like, it seems to me he's like a white frat boy,
It's
is the
exactly.
son of a big time whatever gangster drug dealer. They don't say really what his background is. But
Ben
his dad
Brandt.
is
His
in
name's
jail.
Ben Brandt. He even sounds rich. Ben
Yeah.
Brandt,
So,
played by Billy Magnuson, but he's just this complete tool. He hires all these shitty henchmen that Jake Gyllenhaal keeps beating the shit out of, or killing.
yes.
He like one guy gets eaten by a
Yeah, he
crocodile.
does.
Like,
He kills a ton of people in this movie, which I
yeah,
was not expecting.
yeah, and well, at the end, he kind of loses his shit at the end, and he's like, "I'm just gonna kill people now. I don't care." But like, so Jake and Ben Brandt are fighting on this boat, and they crash into the roadhouse, right? So then they're fighting inside, and then here comes Conor McGregor in a Ford F-150 through the front door,
Oh, yes.
crashes because that's what he does, and then they start fighting. The whole thing's just I keep saying it, but it's just fucking nonsense.
Well, so in the Roadhouse, like it's the way they show that this place is crazy and there's always fights is like there's live bands at the restaurant, but there's like chicken wire fence, like fencing off the stage from the
Just like
crowd.
the original Roadhouse had. Yeah.
Yes. And there was like a funny moment where they were like trying to do like a callback to UFC where like Connor and Jake they both take their shirts off. They're about to like square up and fight for the end. And like the camera is like behind the fence. So it feels like you're kind of watching like a UFC fight. So I thought that was kind of a cool little goofy UFC vibe they did. So they really leaned into the UFC thing with this. So, but horrible movie. For Conor McGregor's debut acting, he did exactly what I guess I would have assumed him to do. Like I mentioned earlier,
I think he did better because he's so cheesy. Like it's so over the top. It's not even that it's bad acting; it's that it's so cartoonish.
Yes,
like there's bad. I've seen Shaq in Steel is bad acting. Connor in this is just he's a cartoon. He's not. It's not real. It's over the top.
And like I said earlier, Conor McGregor actually there under all the cocaine and billions that he has, like at one point there was like a very intelligent and articulate human being that would say some like very profound things and was a scary dude. Like he was a scary bad man. And so like I think he could have done a movie like this where he was like the big villain that they brought in that like, oh shit, don't mess with him. And he could have been serious about it and not like goofy and would have been cool. But I liked it. I thought he was hilarious. There was an instant classic like GIF that's now been made from where he like walks. When I mentioned he crashes the driver's ed car, he gets out, walks into the house or like the compound to, I guess, was planning on fighting someone or check in with what everyone was doing, and everyone's gone. And he's like, "Where the fuck is everyone at?" Like, and that clip has been used for multiple funny things online to basically show like when no one shows up or blah blah blah, like Conor McGregor after doing 40 pounds of coke, whatever it is. So we got an instant gif out of it. I liked it. I'm giving it it's weird, it's so bad I don't want to give it a high rating because it's like a 4, probably maybe even lower than that in terms of quality, and I'll give it a 4. But rewatchability is a 7 for sure. If that makes sense. Probably doesn't.
No, it doesn't. What's your rating? Come on, pick a number.
That's what I'm saying. It's in the rating of a movie, it's a 4. But in rewatchability, it's a solid 7 movie. I'm going to stick with 7 because it's a fun movie to watch. It's probably something I would say I would watch more than once.
Yes.
And for that, I will give it a 7 instead of probably the 6 that it deserves. 7.
So I had the same line of thinking you did, but I think production value No, it's bad. God, it's
Well,
dumb.
You're
right.
back
I
and
had
forth because I'm
a
like,
number
the
picked out.
production was actually great, and Jake
I had a
Gyllenhaal
number picked out, but I want to give it a 7 as well, but I can't. I can't do it. Like
it's so bad.
it's a 6.5. It's a 6.5,
Okay.
which is not a bad rating, right? Like this is a 10-point
Yeah.
scale, so that's that's better than a 5.
I think I want to reiterate. We keep saying that it's so bad, but it is watchable. Like it's not a movie that's so bad you can't watch it. It's like you can
I
follow
use
it.
that term.
You're invested in it.
I said awesomely bad. Like it is awesomely bad. Like it is.
Yeah.
I mean, and it does give you that like 90s shitty action movie vibe, 100%. Like, man,
But I think
I'm gonna go
up with those. We needed it. We need that.
I'm gonna go 7. I'm going to 7.
Let's go.
It's a 7, just because I know I'm gonna watch this again. I might watch it tonight.
You've already watched it again.
I've already watched it twice. I'm gonna watch it again. It's entertaining as hell. If this, okay, I'll tell you, if this movie was PG-13, it's a 4.
For sure.
Or less. If this movie's PG-13, it's dog shit.
Yes, because like got to really lean into the.
You have to have the violence. You have to have the cussing, and you have to have it in this movie. There are so many movies that have done that where it's like, man, if that movie would have just gone over the top, it would have been so much better.
Yeah,
like
that's why Deadpool is so good, because it was like, fucking take the gloves off and let him be the character. Yeah, I am surprised at how much I liked this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I was not expecting it to be a movie that I would ever want to watch again, but it's like, all right, this was fucking fun.
Yeah, it's entertaining for sure. But anyway, that's our review of the 2024 action remake Roadhouse. And that takes us into my favorite segment. There can be only 5.
Only 5.
So last week we did best remake reboots, because we were talking about Ghostbusters, and we kind of got to talking about like the 2016 and then Afterlife and stuff. So we were talking about like best reboots, remakes. We hadn't done that category before, which I think we were both surprised we hadn't done. So then I wanted to do this week the opposite end, the top 5 or bottom 5 worst remakes of all time. Now, I'm going to preface this. There are remakes that are bad that I've probably never seen, because there are remakes that I will not watch. And like you were talking about Total Recall earlier, it's not on my list. I've never watched the remake with Colin Farrell. Never had a desire to. Leave the first one alone. I don't need to see the remake. I probably should watch it, but I never did. And there was a bunch of movies, like when I was looking at lists of bad remakes, like, and we make up our own lists, but we always both look at like categories, like, are there movies? Oh shit, I forgot that existed. Like I forgot how awesome, terrible that movie was, or how good that was. And so anyway, that's why we use those. But there was a ton on those lists that I had never seen, just because I had never wanted to get around to watch it. Anyway, so my top 5 worst remakes ever. Of one honorable mention. I didn't hate this movie, but compared to the original, I understand why people hate it so much. And I know it's at the top of a lot of lists. So I had the 1998 Psycho remake as an honorable mention. It's a shot-for-shot remake of the original Alfred Hitchcock, done by Gus Van Sant. Obviously made famous with Anthony Perkins, and Vince Vaughn's the killer in the remake. Obviously, we all know about Norman Bates and Psycho. It's not good. Didn't hate it. So honorable mention, Psycho, 1998. All right, my 5. Number 5, I have the 2001 Planet of the Apes remake by Tim Burton.
Oh yeah, fuck.
I was never, I was never a big fan of the old classic Planet of the Apes movies. Like I watched them, but I was never a big fan. This was not a good movie. There was a lot of problems with it, and I think the reboot with Rise of the Planet of the Apes has made this movie so much worse, because they've done such a good job. I'll sit here and say that I think the Rise, Dawn, War and soon to be Kingdom movies. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, we don't know how Kingdom is yet, but I would say they're better than the originals. I have no problem in saying that whatsoever. But Planet of the Apes 2001, top tier talent. Tim Roth, Michael Clark Duncan. I mean, Wahlberg's in it. Like, it's a hell of a cast. Tim Burton was still pretty. He had a lot of great movies. It's not good. It's pretty bad.
J-Lo? Was it J-Lo that was the female?
Oh God, I don't remember. But it's not good. It's terrible. The ending sucked. Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
Number 4, I had the 2020, so there's a recent one, remake of Dr. Dolittle with Robert Downey Jr.
Oh my God, I forgot about that.
When this movie came out, like this was like he had just come off of like being Iron Man. Like, Iron Man, I think Avengers ended in 2018. And he was, making other movies and stuff. And this was a January release. The moment I saw it was a January release, I knew it was dog shit. Because if you're going to remake Dr. Dolittle, which was like a classic, like I want to say 50s or 60s movies with Rex Harrison, which I saw a ton as a kid, which I liked Dr. Dolittle. And then they remade it again with Eddie Murphy.
Which I loved. Eddie Murphy's were great.
Those were great. Rex Harrison's was great. So this is another remake. And it's awful. It's so bad. Like it's awful. Like it should have been like a Christmas movie with Robert Downey Jr. and made a ton of money, but it came out in January. They put it in January for a reason. It's not good.
Anyways, I don't remember that at all. That's so
you might not have seen it because they like hit it. It was bad. And number 3, I had the 2005 remake of John Carpenter's The Fog. The original The Fog from the 80s is a very, very good horror movie if you've ever seen it. Like fog, coastal city, fog rolls in from the ocean. Apparently the fog's full of like ghosts, start killing people. There's a cool storyline, but it's pretty creepy. It's a really good old 80s horror movie that I think kind of went under the radar because John Carpenter had some classics and whatnot, but The Fog is should definitely be considered.
It's like one of the most, isn't that like one of the most like hated and like
that's The Mist.
Switch up endings. Oh,
that's The Mist.
That's what I'm thinking.
It came out the same year, actually.
Oh, I do remember that. I do remember.
So The Mist is a Stephen King book that was a short story. It was never adapted into a movie before The Mist came out. The Mist adaptation is awesome. It's a great movie. Super cool. You ever seen The Mist? But it does have the most.
I know they're locked in the grocery store, and there's like a major twist ending that people are like, "What the fuck?"
It has the most divisive ending in any movie I've ever seen. It's not the story in the book, the short story. There's no ending. Like it's basically like you don't know what the resolution is at the end of the story. There's a clear resolution at the end of the movie, and it is fucked up.
I don't. I mean, I'm not going to give it away because I've never seen it. But if I remember right or thought right, like it ends up being like the government is the one that are doing the mist and causing the
There's more to it, but it's anyway. The Fog was number 3 on my list. Fog.
Oh, it's great.
And number 2, I had the 2005 Charlie and the Chocolate Factory with Johnny Depp. I did not like that movie at all. I grew up
so bad.
I grew up watching Willy Wonka with Gene Wilder, and listen, I know I didn't like Johnny Depp's character for Willy Wonka, and I don't know if I've heard people say it's more book accurate. It's weird. I didn't like it. I didn't like the movie. Johnny Depp ruined it for me, and I know that was I don't know if that was his idea or Tim Burton's or what, but I didn't like it. It's terrible.
There was this like timing of like, obviously he did Captain Jack Sparrow and was like iconic in that role. But then like Alice in Wonderland, Wonka, like he was supposed to be like the zany, super interesting character. And Wonka, he was weird as fuck.
It's terrible.
So
it's terrible. So anyway, that was number 2. And then at number 1, the worst remake I've ever seen, and this came out when I was in high school, and I saw it in the theaters, and I remember I left, and I was like, "Why was that movie so bad?" Was the 1998 Matthew Broderick Godzilla?
Oh my God.
Hate that movie.
Okay, this is why I feel like you and I had done this list all day. I was texting Howie. He's like, "Are you sure we haven't done this list?"
Mm-mm.
Because I feel like we've talked about this, that you hated the original Godzilla, and I loved that Godzilla movie.
Dude, you
I
must have had a dream
fucking
or
thought it
something
was
about this
awesome.
episode. Never talked about it.
Yes, because there's like, I feel like you and I have talked about the RoboCop that you actually liked. I know we've talked about that you didn't like
Maybe
this Godzilla.
maybe we had a conversation, but we've never done worst remakes.
That's man, that freaking
The soundtrack's one thing. The movie sucks.
Yeah, that's a good point. No, F you. I fucking loved it.
It's terrible.
Taco Bell, I think, was the. I just remember like getting like the toys from like Taco Bell. Like, I thought the movie was fucking awesome. I was a kid because you're 45 years older than me.
Fuck off.
So like for me, we've talked about this in the past. I had my Godzilla toy of the classic Godzilla, and I just loved fucking Godzilla. And so this movie, I was like, I don't like that he looks different, but I fucking think this movie's super cool. The when the dude's on the fucking like pier, and the fucking Godzilla starts coming through and just goes straight through the pier, and he's running through while the woods explode behind him. It's fucking awesome. I hated the ending, the whole Madison Square Garden and all the fucking eggs. That was stupid, but everything else in it was great.
If I know we've talked about this movie before, but the thing I had the biggest issue with is like, how do you create a Godzilla movie and Matthew Broderick's the main character? He's such a pussy.
Have you seen Lion King? How dare you?
Yeah, Simba's a pussy. Whatever.
He's freaking Simba. And also Matthew Broderick was like, I guess at that point, was he still the man? I mean, he was older than he was Ferris Bueller days.
When was he the man?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Like Ferris Bueller.
What movies was he in?
Ferris Bueller. Was it?
He's been in other things than Godzilla and Ferris Bueller.
What, War Games?
I liked that movie, and I shan't believe that you said that. But fine, have your list. I liked where you were at. I was not expecting that last one, and I also, you had multiple movies that I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that movie. But yes, I agree. I'm gonna jump right into mine. I had two honorable mentions. Total Recall, which I think I may have had on my like honorable mentions as like a best remake. I can't remember. I know we've talked about Total Recall on a recent episode, but
we had a couple episodes where we talked about sci-fi movies, and I know Total Recall got brought up in that, and then I think we've talked about Total Recall before.
Yes, the original is so good. It's so like perfect in itself, and like it's very 90s. And so Total Recall, the new one with Colin Farrell, it was trying to be like a cool sci-fi movie, and like kind of like District 9 almost, like District 9 meets like Minority Report, I would say is the best combination to say. But it was so forgettable, so boring, so lame. Total Recall. And then the Johnny Depp Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was just absolute hot garbage.
Trash.
What a hot garbage movie that was. Shout out to Johnny Depp, but man, what a shitty movie. I love Johnny Depp.
Yeah.
Okay, number 5. Another movie of why I thought we had already done this list, because I know we've talked about this, but The Mummy remake with Tom Cruise was such a terrible movie. It was so bad that it canceled a entire franchise, right? Like,
yeah, the Dark Universe.
we wanted the Dark Universe. We thought it was going to be great, and because of
I
Tom
remember
Cruise,
talking about that.
yes, I think we have just talked about all of these things like sporadically throughout, that it feels like we've done the top 5 list, but I know we talked about that, but it is one of the worst remakes ever. Number 4, just staying on brand with last week and the week before, I had the Ghostbusters, the 2016 reboot, remake. Just, it's so not good for all the reasons we had talked about last week of why it's bad. Just I can't even put that movie in the realm of any other Ghostbuster movies that like I think of. Like, I don't, this is one of the Ghostbusters movies. I don't put it in that, if that makes sense. So
Yeah, I know. You're right.
so bad. Number 3, the only movie that we had both on the same list was the this movie is like one of the all-time movies that I really wanted to like that ended up being terrible. Planet of the Apes from 2001. It was, for everything you said, it was so bad. Also, it was, I don't know why I said J-Lo, but it was Helena Bonham Carter is who played the girl in
Well,
it.
yeah, it's a Tim Burton movie, so she had to be in
Yeah,
it.
she's in every Tim Burton movie. But like Paul Giamatti was in that movie. Like, there's so many like
There's a ton of
home run
people in it.
hitters, and
Yeah.
it was so bad. It was so bad. So and I wanted it, like you said earlier, like I it's a franchise that I didn't really care for or like growing up because it was way before my time. And it was kind of boring and lame. And then I thought this was going to be a cool sci-fi thing, and it was super fucking lame. And then we got the new ones that are fucking amazing.
They're
And so
great,
even
yeah.
more so, just point out how horrible of a movie that was. And also, what a weird director choice for Planet of the Apes, right? Like, why would Tim Burton, Nightmare Before Christmas guy, Edward Scissorhands, be doing that? You know,
Why'd he do Alice in Wonderland? Why'd he do
yes.
Charlie and the Chocolate Factory? Like,
But I think other people would say, like, well, why would he do Batman? And obviously,
everybody
we know
did say, why
Josh
would he do
Garth.
Batman?
Yes, and then we got the classics that we got. So I
Yeah.
guess you're either going to get a home run or a total whiff with him and what you do with those franchises. And then number 2, a movie that I know you actually think was a lot better than a lot of people remember it for. I freaking hated it. Was the new RoboCop that came out a couple years back. I just like you kind of shortly mentioned earlier. They tried to like completely redo everything instead of just like sticking with the classic. They could have just modernized it a little bit, but like he didn't even look like RoboCop. He was
No,
like
I
a
mean
ninja.
he looked different. It was cool, but whatever. I mean, like, it's another one of those movies. I think if that movie's rated R and it's horribly violent, it's way better than it was.
But why? It's almost like the people who made it didn't get the source material, or
Yes.
they weren't able to act
Absolutely
like they
not.
did.
Of course they
And
didn't.
that's a movie. He literally gets his freaking hand blown off from a foot away with a shotgun and shot by in like a fucking like a gun line. That's not the word I'm thinking of or that I want to use, but like
Firing Squad.
Firing Squad. Like that is a rated R movie.
It was
RoboCop 2.
almost not a rated R movie. It was almost
Yes.
NC-17.
Yes. So like that, doing RoboCop and not being able to do like the main, it's like Deadpool. Like, you don't do it if you can't like go all the way. So
Yep.
but I had that as my number 2. And then my number 1, which when this movie first came out, and watched it, I thought this might actually be okay, might reboot this franchise or give us like the modern version of it. And then it ended up just the longer time went on that it was out, the worse we realized the movie. Power Rangers, the new Power Rangers movie that came out. Why are you so shocked?
I loved that movie.
I knew it. That's what I said. Like when I saw it, at first I thought this was great. And I thought that this was going to reboot the franchise. And then have you ever gone back and watched it again recently?
I bought it for Dez on Blu-ray because he watched it like 100 times.
It's it doesn't they don't get the Power Rangers.
No.
Doesn't feel anything like the original.
Right. But it's one of those movies that I felt like deserved a sequel because the potential was there.
Yes. Which I originally, when I saw it, I thought this is going to reboot the franchise. They're going to come out with more movies. And then they didn't because it bombed, it flopped. And then when that happens, you go back and you're like, well, why did this bomb or flop? And the more I watched it, the more I was like, this is not there's a reason why. Like,
okay. It's not good, but I enjoyed it. Let me say that.
Yes, okay. So it is Roadhouse for you. So,
Maybe.
think about that though. Like that series was a worldwide phenomena when when I was a kid and you were in high school. The original Power Rangers TV show.
When I was a baby,
it was so good. It was everywhere. This is the time that, like, that time period, all of those people are in the range of like disposable income. We want the nostalgia, like NECA and the Ninja Turtles and all the classic stuff coming back. All these old franchises like lean into making it cool and making it for the people that love that. It felt like they were trying to make a cool new franchise for like for kids to get into.
It's exactly what they're doing, but that's what they do to make money.
I know, but they didn't do a good job with it. That's
I got you.
They didn't do a good job with it. So I would much rather have, and maybe this is selfish, and we always talk about this of like, I wish they would make a movie for me and not for like trying to get to like restart people's love for Power Rangers. It's like actually lean into making a fucking cool.
That's what X-Men's doing right now.
Like, yes, just give us that and and like just we're going to continue it. So, which actually there is, I think the Blue Ranger, Blue Ranger, Black Ranger, and then there's one more. They got together and they made like a new movie. It's on Netflix.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and then it had like, and I think it had the Pink Ranger and the Yellow Ranger from like later series.
Yes,
you're right.
So
they did. That's right. I never saw it.
Watched it. I haven't watched it, but I know for the longest time the guy who plays Billy, the Blue Ranger, he was like pushing this as like a crowd-funded like fan film thing that ended up finally getting picked up. And they were going to have Tommy in it, and obviously he passed away. So obviously that kind of ruined it. But yeah, Power Rangers, the new one, like, man, you were right there. You had it teed up for a home run and you dropped the ball. So Goldar we got in it was fucking super lame. Goldar's a badass character and they made it a super goofy, not cool character. So anyways, that's my number one.
I like your list. I'm with you. I get it. I totally understand where you're coming from. So
well, both of us both of our number ones were movies that the other one actually liked. So
yeah, it's funny. It's funny. Like we didn't mind it. Like it's not on my list because we both are number ones. We didn't mind the other one.
That's great.
What you got?
My list this week, I was like, the movie that we watched, Roadhouse, put me in like a mindset of like, oh, I haven't seen a movie where it's just like fighting and action in a long time. That is just, I need that in my life. I like that. So I'm going to do top 5 tournament fighter movies. So like, this is like a movie that the fighting is a main purpose of the movie, and even more so like a tournament of some type of like 1v1 old school vibes. And I did not have any honorable mentions. I was going to, but then I ended up just putting it on my list. So for number 5, this is actually like the least action out of all the movies, but it's like it is an all-time classic. I put Karate Kid. It's not exactly like fighting to the death by any means. It's
No, but
very karate,
there's a
but the whole
tournament.
movie, there's a major tournament in it. They are, like how many classic things and lines from that movie have lived on and have been in a million other movies and TV shows. Karate Kid, the crane kick at the end, like epic moment in cinema history. My number 5. My number 4, I don't think I know for a fact that Rotten Tomatoes has this movie as like a 30, like a under 30, like just horrible ratings, horrible score, but fucking what a badass movie. Number 4, Never Back Down from 2008, I want to say. The original Never Back Down was it's it's like one of the first MMA like movies that came out. It's very like
2000.
it's actually very much like this Roadhouse movie that we watched where they're
It is
in
a
like
21% on the tomato meter.
yeah, it's so bad. But it's so like it was I was like a freshman in college. I just started playing college football, and this movie like hit at the right time. I don't know what it is, but like the main bad guy is Ryan McCarthy, or not Ryan McCarthy. That's the name of the character. It's Cam Gigandet, gigantic. Hey, he's what movies is he in? Look up what movie Ryan. I don't even know how to say his last name, but you'd recognize him.
Gigantic. Is that what you said?
It's spelled Gigandet.
You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Cam Gigandet. He's the bad guy. He was in this movie. Is what kind of put him on the map.
I would say Gigandet. That's how I pronounce it. Oh my god!
He's been in more movies. This was like the original movie that kicked off him like becoming kind of a star. Like he was in Twilight, he was in Violent Night, he was in Pandorum, which is a movie that I know that you like. He didn't catch on quite like I thought he would, but yes. But if you've never watched the original Never Back Down, it's fucking worth a watch.
Kyle, I've never seen any of the Never Back Down movies.
You don't need
Apparently
to watch
there's
any
4
of
of
those.
them.
I've never seen any of the, or maybe I've seen the second one, but like Jimon Hounsou, what that dude who's
Jimon
in like
Hounsou, yeah, he's in a ton of stuff.
He's a badass. He's like it's very much okay. So the movie is very much Karate Kid. It's like a modern Karate Kid, but instead of a karate tournament, it's an MMA tournament. Okay. It's literally what it is. And so the blonde dude.
This is your number 4. You are carrying on here with Never Back Down.
Sorry. Well, you've never seen it. It's so bad it's fucking good, and I fucking love that movie. So, anyways, number 3, which I could very easily have this at number 1 in my list, just because I love this movie and we've talked about it so much that I almost didn't put on my list just because we have talked about it. But the movie Warrior, just one of the fucking coolest movies ever.
Yeah,
it's super emotional. It's an MMA movie about 2 brothers, 2 estranged brothers who their family split up when they were little. They both went their separate ways, not wanting to, but they did. They became estranged, and then they end up in this MMA tournament where they are fighting to, the winner is going to get a lot of money and it's going to change their life. And they both are fighting for very different reasons for why they win. And then they end up fighting each other at the end. It's just super emotional as a brother. It's a family that's had loss. Like there's a lot of emotional things that are inside that this movie does a great job of. It's so fucking good. And there's Tom Hardy's in it. He's freaking amazing. There's so many good actors in that movie. So Anyways, Warrior is my number 3, and it's fucking awesome. And then the two movies that I really wanted to talk about, which is why I did this list, just so I could bring these movies up. I have number 2, one Jean-Claude Van Damme, Bloodsport. Bloodsport is fucking awesome. What a cool underground tournament, fight to the death movie. Jean-Claude Van Damme, who's been in like 3 or 4 versions of that same exact type of movie.
There's one on my list, and it's not that one.
It's like Flying Hard, and there's like 3 other ones. So, but Bloodsport I love it because, believe it or not, the story and the bad guy. Freaking Chong Li is this like the beast from the east is what they call him, but he is like kind of like he's like the bad guy. He's like the final boss of a video game. He's this terrifying, badass like champion who wins this fight to the death tournament for multiple years, and Jean-Claude Van Damme's like best friend gets killed by him, and so then Jean-Claude, who's like I think a world famous like kickboxer or something, so like a famous athlete in the movie, ends up like going on a mission to revenge his fallen friend, and it has a fucking cool ass final battle between the two. Bloodsport. I haven't seen it in many years, but as I'm talking about now, I'm probably going to put that on when this pod is over. And then number 1, we've talked about this. This movie is one of my favorite all-time nerd movies. It is a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. The original Mortal Kombat. Fucking the Sub-Zero, the Scorpion that we got in this movie. Freaking Shang Tsung. They actually go to the island, Shang Tsung's island, to have an actual tournament. I wish they would have really went all the way through it and we got more of that style, because all the other Mortal Kombat movies really don't do any of that.
Right.
But like I think Outworld's won like 9 tournaments in a row, and if Earthrealm loses this tournament, like Outworld can then take over Earth and merge the worlds or something. But basically, like the top champions from different realms all battle for like the end of the world, essentially. But we get all the classics: Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, Goro, Scorpion, Sub-Zero, Sonya Blade, Kano. Like it's an awesome movie, and that is a movie that I could put on, just like Shawshank Redemption, the original Mortal Kombat. I could put on and watch from any moment in that movie. I will watch it to the end. If it shows up and it's halfway through, I'm watching it to the end. If we've got 5 minutes left, I'm watching it to the end. If it starts from the beginning, I'm fucking watching it to the end. It's fucking awesome. Mortal Kombat, my number 1 tournament fighter movie of all time.
I like it. I like your list. We got a couple similarities here, so we'll get through that. I had 2 honorable mentions. One, the original Mortal Kombat. I had to have on my list because I grew up with the movie and the video games, and I loved it. All the things you said. But I had it as an honorable mention because I feel like we talk about Mortal Kombat a lot.
We do. We do.
My other honorable mention is the movie Best of the Best. And I don't know if you've ever seen Best of the Best.
I haven't seen the movie, but I saw it on a bunch of lists.
It's like, I loved it as a kid. They made like 4 of them. But the first one, this sound like when you were talking about Never Back Down, like I was just thinking, I'm like, this sounds like they remade Best of the Best and they changed the name of it. But it's basically like there's this, it's like a one-on-one combat tournament where they pick like the best fighters in the US and they pick the best fighters in, I think, Korea. And they like, it's a tournament and they have to fight each other. And it's like Eric Roberts is like the main character. And then there's like the other martial artist who's like the guy's like wrote the movie. I think his name's like Ronnie Yee or something like that. And he didn't do anything other than Best of the Best movies pretty much. And then like,
well, there's multiple. It's a franchise.
Yeah, it is. And then Chris Penn's in. He's one of the fighters in it, and he's like Sean Penn's fat brother that like was in a whole bunch of shit. Like you'd know him if you saw him because he was in a ton of stuff. And then like the coach of the team is fucking James Earl Jones.
Oh
And
my
I
God!
swear to
Darth
God,
Vader?
yes,
Darth Vader is the coach.
he's like the hard ass coach of the fucking martial artists. This like came out the same year as like Field of Dreams, and
Oh
he's
my
like
God.
he likes filming Field of Dreams and he films Best of the Best, whatever. Anyway, it's awesome. It's super cheesy tournament style, like, and it comes down to where like the Americans are gonna win, but if he like fights, like the guy's so beat, if he hits him again, he's gonna kill him. So he shows him mercy, and then the Koreans end up winning. But they give their medals to the Americans because they know they should have won. Anyway,
What?
it's super cheesy, but
I gotta look
it's
this
entertaining.
movie up.
Eric Roberts is the main character, which is crazy.
It looks very serious. It looks like a serious movie.
It is. It's entertaining. I enjoyed it. Like it was like on Cinemax all the time. You know, it was like one of those movies like it was always on. You watched it.
Love that.
It was an honorable mention. My number 5, I picked the other super famous Jean-Claude Van Damme tournament style movie, Kickboxer, as my number 5. And that you know, and it's the same. It's essentially the same plot line as Bloodsport, except his brother doesn't die. He gets like his back broken and he's paralyzed and he's in a wheelchair.
Yes.
But it has the bad guy with the super long braided ponytail. It has like the Goro ponytail. And they fight they dip their hands in glass, like glue and then glass. Classic. Anyway, I like Kickboxer growing up better than I did Bloodsport.
I actually love the movie Hot Shots. I think 2. Hot Shots 2 does a version
the candy,
of that.
like
he dips his hand in like caramel
it's like an ice cream buffet. Yeah. Yes.
So,
and number 4, this one's a curveball, and I saw it on one list, and I was like, it fits the bill. At number 4, I had the Arnold Schwarzenegger classic, The Running Man.
Oh my God. I almost picked The Running Man because I fucking love that movie.
I love that movie. It's fantastic. Do you know who wrote that story that it's based on? The book. So fun fact, it's written by Richard Bachman, which is a pseudonym for Stephen King. He wrote The Running Man.
No way.
Honest to God, I've read it. Yeah.
One, I don't think we talked about The Running Man when we did our Arnold episode, or we talked about Arnold, and that was like one of my biggest regrets.
Yes.
The Running Man is such an underrated,
Kyle,
fucking awesome movie.
I'm writing it down now. We're going to do an episode on The Running Man.
Dude, I fucking love that movie. Game show to the death.
Oh my God.
There's so many cool characters, like villains. It's like a video game.
Sub-Zero, cool off.
Yes, the fucking hockey kill. Okay, so Starfield, the game that I have talked about that I'm playing, it's like Fallout in space. There is a planet called the Red Mile, and like it's just a planet to basically do the Running Man. Like it's a game show trying to survive Red Mile. It's fucking awesome. Great movie. Great pick. I will allow it.
All right. Running Man. At number 3, and it had to be on the list somewhere, and it's probably, you didn't watch Bruce Lee movies, so I get that probably.
So
I had to put Enter the Dragon. I had to put Enter the Dragon on here. It's Bruce Lee's best movie. It's the movie he died while he was making it, and he died during filming. Jackie Chan's in it, before Jackie Chan was anybody, and he's one of the bad guys in it. But the set
Chuck
pieces.
Norris in that one too, or is that a different one?
No, Chuck Norris is in a different one. I don't remember which one Chuck Norris is in. Not that one. But Enter the Dragon, it's got the guy, he fights him, and he's got the Wolverine claws, and he slices him up. Enter the Dragon's a fucking martial arts tournament classic.
I'm probably going to get hated on for not having it on my list.
Yeah, but they're old, right? Those are old movies. They're not the ones you grew up with. I totally get it. And number 2, I had Warrior. I love Warrior. It's a fantastic movie. I can watch that a million times.
A million times.
I watched it a million times over. I don't get tired of it. I just watched it a few months ago because I was I want to watch Warrior because the movie's badass and it's great. And like you said, it's emotional. It's this thing with the brothers, but like, and the actors in it are so good. I mean, like Tom Hardy's fantastic. Joel Edgerton's fantastic. Nick Nolte is the drunk, abusive father is
fucking crazy,
amazing in that movie. It's
I think
great.
most people just thought that like, oh, this is like a UFC movie, so I don't want to see
Not
it.
at all.
But like, that's not what the movie is. It's a part of it. So,
super great movie. And then at number 1, and listen, like it's the out of all the movies on all these lists, it's the movie I've watched the most. It's an all-time classic. You had it on your list, The Karate Kid. I had it number 1. Like I had to have the original Karate Kid.
Nice.
Like I grew up with the franchise. Like it's still going today with Cobra Kai. It's as popular as it ever was.
Yeah.
Like my kid that's 13 is interested in it because she likes Cobra Kai. So then she wants to watch all these old movies. And like it's a classic. And yes, the fighting isn't the biggest part of it, but like so much came from that movie. Like you say wax on, wax off, everybody knows what you're talking about. Like everybody knows what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Karate Kid. I had that at number 1. That's my all-time.
They've done a remake of it. Like there was a ton of sequels that came out. Now, obviously, nobody really remembers them other than maybe Karate Kid 2.
Karate Kid 2 is very good. Yes, Karate Kid 3 is forgettable, and then the next Karate Kid is just dumb.
It's just dumb.
It's dumb.
I will say
it's Hilary Swank. Did you know that? Hilary Swank.
Yes, I did. Yes, I was like, one of them was a girl. I knew that. I actually thought that was Karate Kid 2 when we were talking about this. I thought Karate Kid 2 was one with a girl.
No.
There's one movie that I didn't say on my list because I went back and forth of being like, this isn't a tournament fighter movie, but I was this close to having it on there instead of Warrior, since we've talked about Warrior. I was going to put Over the Top. Sylvester Stallone's Over the Top. Old professional arm wrestling. But then I thought, that's not tournament fighter, but it has the same vibe as these tournament fighter movies.
No, you're right. It's not.
Over the Top. Just look at us. We were talking about Arnold's Running Man that no one talks about, and Over the Top, probably the one movie of Sly's that no one even knows exists, right next to Stopper My Mom Will Shoot. Fucking great movie. Yeah. I like your list.
I liked your list too. It's good stuff. It was an interesting category, but I had a lot of fun scrolling through lists and picking up. I mean, God, I couldn't think of the last time I freaking watched Best of the Best, and I was like, fuck, I used to love that movie as a kid. But anyway, that takes us to the end of episode 43 of the Movie Dads podcast. If you're watching us on YouTube, please click that like and subscribe. Tell us what you like, tell us what you don't like. Make sure you set those reminders to let you know when new episodes come out at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time on Wednesdays. That's our scheduled time. If you're not watching us on YouTube, hopefully you're listening to us on one of many podcast networks: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Podcast Index. There's not one more. That's it. We stopped there because Google's gone. And then you can watch some of our short clips and videos on social media at Movie Dads Pod on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Kyle, next week's a big episode. Episode 44. Wow. Guys, you're not going to believe this. It's our 1-year anniversary. We've been doing this podcast for a full fucking year.
Crazy. So look, my basement here has evolved over that year. When we first started, I just had gray walls.
You did.
Now I got stuff up there.
Yeah, I just do it. I used to just sit at my bar and do it. Now I have my room. I have my podcast room. So yeah.
Wild.
So we're going to do one of our all-time favorite movies that we've talked about a lot recently. We're going to do A Knight's Tale for the You Need to See This Movie, the Heath Ledger classic, A Knight's Tale. We're going to do that. And then for our There Can Be Only 5, we're going to do a top 10 list. We're going to give you our greatest movies of all time. It's the
best movies we've ever seen.
Best movies we've ever seen are the movies we see, and that's our top 10 movies that we've ever seen. So we're giving you a big list next week for our 1-year anniversary. Maybe we'll have a couple other fun things we'll add in. We'll let you know. But that's next week, episode 44. Until then, thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We will see you next time.
Bye.